Welcome back to Odd Ones. I'm afraid to look at my action cam.
Which camera to look at?
That one's the one that we're looking at right now, but I'm afraid to look at it because I don't know how good the quality is going to be.
So
We'll
not
see.
that one?
I don't know. Just act natural. Act like nobody's here. Welcome back. I hope you're having a great day, and if you are, I want you to go and look something up for me. You know what? I'll play a little bit of it here too. If you are feeling happy and upbeat, I want you to go and look up the Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Typing?
Yeah, that's me typing.
Okay.
Avatar: The Last Airbender soundtrack. Look up Uncle Iroh and look up Leaves of a Vine, I think is what it's called. And that'll make you sad.
We could link it.
And I'm going to put a link down below and it'll make you sad.
Mm-hmm. I
had the great privilege of accidentally stumbling across that song again after not hearing it for years while I was scrolling through Instagram on the toilet. So that made me sad. So I'm going to make y'all feel sad too. So go look it up.
So maybe you were projecting your issues on me because I wasn't sad.
What are you talking about?
Just a minute ago.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway.
So we're going to get back into how to raise a healthy gamer.
We don't want to address the really long gap.
It hasn't been a really long gap.
When's the last time we had
It's only been a week, I think.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll explain later in another video, maybe a compendium to this one.
Bait.
Yep. So if you want to see that video, see why Lara's thinking that we've been gone longer than what we actually have, check it out. Go check that out. Subscribe. All this good stuff.
Hit the bell.
Yep. So we're going through this book, and I'm holding these two, and I'll talk about them in a second. This book, there's a lot more that I'm going like reading through and kind of wanting to break down. So as we're reading through this one, we're gonna have a separate playlist. So this one will be in a playlist, and then
the Healthy Gamer one, right?
The Healthy Gamer will be in a playlist. But just as a little, filler episodes, we will be putting in these two books because they're a little short and sweet and old. Do's and don'ts. What is it? Do's for wives and do's for husbands.
Now,
nope, I read that wrong. I'm sorry, my dyslexia.
Something, right?
Don'ts for wives and don'ts for husbands. And this is a book from 1913, so it should be interesting to see what they say. It's been a while since I've read it.
Are we going to address the fact that we are not doing the Us Journal?
Oh yeah. So we talked about that a while back, doing the Us journals, and there will be a section here somewhere for that. But reading it as shorts, TikToks, Instagram reels, was just very awkward. So instead, we're gonna do either YouTube Live or Facebook Live, and then just cut that up.
Did we ever post those as shorts?
Nope.
Point in case.
I was like looking at them and editing them, and I'm like, this is kind of boring and seems a little bit fake. So I'd rather,
I think
go
live is good.
Go live, go and go through some of those questions, answer them. Maybe you guys can answer them while we're going live and all this, good jazz. But so that's all the things that we have planned right this second. We still have other things in the work in the background, so keep your eyes open for those things.
Or turn on the notifications.
Yep.
Follow.
Yep. Go on Facebook. Facebook is where all of the Odd One brand will be. So this is the Odd Ones podcast where we talk about relationship stuff and everything else. The Wandering Bjorn, the things that you have in the pipeline. Excuse me. Pardon me. But all the things that you have in the works will be on Facebook. So, and then Instagram is where you can just kind of see the background version of us. So
let's get into it.
Yep. Without any further ado, as they say.
All right. So I will tell you that Bjorn has done most of all the work on reading this. And so he has given me talking points. He likes to do that. So on chapter 2, how to raise a healthy gamer. So this question, the question this chapter will answer is, why are kids obsessed with games?
It really doesn't. I put that in there at the beginning. I just wrote it down. It really doesn't go over that too much. It actually went over that in the first chapter more, as far as why they're obsessed with it. It kind of does, but not really.
So we're going to have bullet points.
Yes.
Instead of I'm going to forget all of the highlighted things. We're just going to talk about the bullet points. So, gaming is an escape for kids. Escape.
Yep. So I'll talk more about this later. But what?
Are we talking about it now or later?
No, I'm saying I'm gonna give a rough kind of my rough in, and then we'll go over my other thoughts and what he said in there later. But um, yeah, I mean, video games. If a kid's getting bullied at school, or maybe doesn't. This is probably one of the bigger ones for me. Is if a child has not the best upbringing, I'm sure that they will probably go to gaming to kind of resolve that, kind of get out of that situation. Like for me, for an example, I didn't have the worst childhood, but also I was just alone a lot. My mom was kind of doing her thing. Um, my dad wasn't around, all this different stuff. So video games for me was an escape and also kind of a babysitter. So what are your thoughts on that, Laura?
Um, I don't even think that's for kids. Like when I was in the darkest of depressions, somebody had introduced me to and bought an entire gaming PC for me to be in their black hole with them, um, of gaming. And when I was the most miserable in my life, that was definitely a place to escape, for better or for worse. So I don't think it's just kids. And I do see how, I don't know why that's bugging the crap out of me. Sorry. How kids could escape that way. And if I look at our kids, I mean, they have interest in gaming, but when, like, I'm thinking about our son going through all of his heart stuff, like, he couldn't really get out and about. So he was
Yeah.
escaping through that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and the girls, they, all three of the kids kind of play video games a little bit, but I think for the girls, it's more technology in general. Like Juliet is definitely YouTube.
Mhm.
Lyric is probably also YouTube as well. Just like that's how they get away from life. And yeah.
Okay.
So what's the next point?
Gaming also gives community, which I think is probably different for the girls versus
Well,
Aaron and us.
they used to play Roadblocks. I don't know if they ever talked to anybody on there. I sure hope not. I didn't know anything about Roadblocks. By the way, if your children are on Roadblocks, I can't say what
Roblox?
Roadblocks.
Roblox.
I don't know how it's spelled.
Roblox.
I'm dyslexic.
No, I'm just asking.
Um,
Well, I guess I was telling and asking. It's
I don't.
Roblox. It's important if you're looking. We'll link it down below
Yep.
so you
We'll
know.
put an
'Cause
image
that is
here.
scary.
Yeah. So if you don't know what that is, what Roadblocks, whatever it's called. If you don't know what that is, it is a game. To me, the characters look like an off-brand version of Minecraft characters.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know exactly what you do in there. I guess it's a bunch of mini games and other
It's kind
chat
of like
rooms.
Minecraft, but Minecraft meets um virtual reality, like the lobbies or whatever.
Hmm. So like VR chat.
Yeah, we're all hang out.
You can't say that. You can't say that. I have to
Bleep it
bleep.
out.
I have to bleep it out. So
Well, now we know all the
all the people who,
all the bad
all the
people.
maps.
Okay,
If you don't know what maps is, I
look it
can't.
up.
Yeah, go look up what that is. But inappropriate adults, we'll call them
Right.
for this purposes. But yeah, so that's where they hang out. They talk to children, and I mean, there has been a lot of cases where children, they don't know any better, so they give out their address, and men have met, like, gone to these children's houses.
Mhm.
So it's really scary. Minecraft's kind of the same way as far as if you go into servers and stuff like that, but it's worse on Roblox apparently because it you can get on there on your phone or whatever. So they used to play that, but I know they don't do that anymore unless they're playing with like some of their younger friends or whatever.
I think the book is called How to Raise a Healthy Gamer, and I also think there's a healthy aspect of community. There is a lot of
Yeah.
unhealthy, but like during the time that I was struggling, and again, I'm not a kid, but thinking about what I went through, like the community that I found on World of Warcraft or maybe, sorry, I have a burps in there, or
I had to switch over to regular water.
excuse me, as always. Um, Oh my gosh.
World of Warcraft, Overwatch.
Overwatch. They became my family, like, when I didn't feel connected to anybody else, and I had a great time hanging out with them, and I think if you get too connected to those people, like, there were times I can remember where, like, I'd much rather hang out with my friends than my ex-husband
Yep.
because they cared more about me.
Yep. I understand that. I think the difference between
Same thing for kids, though, community that nobody judges, like,
yeah,
they
and
don't know them.
that's what a lot of this chapter is about is building community in video games, and that's their kind of judgment free zone, if you want to call it that. I think the difference between my sense of community in video games and yours is I never have been the person that gets in lobbies and like talks to people and makes friends like that. Every single friend that I've ever made on, well, not every friend, there's been a couple people that I would consider them friends at the time, that I was introduced to from people that I met in real life. So, I met Alan, Tommy, and Grant in real life. They were
So it
my
was never somebody randomly that you connected
yeah,
with on your own.
yeah. I can't think of a single time
7
that
degrees of Kevin Bacon, 10 degrees,
yeah,
whatever.
pretty much. Aside from like whenever I played Maple Story back in the 8th grade, 7th grade, um, every other experience that I've ever had as far as online community goes is I had friends in real life,
Mhm.
then we played video games together, and we would see each other very, very frequently. Um, so I don't know. I've never had that aspect of it. Um, but yeah, a lot of people do have that. A lot of people who play WoW, they have their guilds that they meet up with every single, every day or every week or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, it does give kids a sense of community and belonging for sure.
And on that note, like, the next point, which kinda rolls into it, is you can see, like, in those kind of communities, you can create your own character, like,
Hmm.
I could be a, you know, 36, 24, 36. I could be whatever name I wanted to be. I could have whatever history I wanted to be. The kids can be a, oh, have a 4 point, not anybody's bragging about grade averages, but like, oh, we live in like California and, I'm been through all this stuff,
Yeah.
with my emo hair. But they don't have to, they could be boys, they can be girls. I mean, you always play female characters, so if I were going online, especially being a
Well, there's
novice,
a difference between why I play as female characters and why they
doesn't matter.
some people do.
Right. But if you had no idea, you were just getting into the video game world and you were like, "Oh, it's another woman. I'm gonna connect with them," and you're only chatting and nobody tells you like, "Oh, I'm not 25 female,
Yeah, you can definitely catfish.
whatever. I could be, 41 male and be playing that." So I think that it gives them a way to be the person that they want to be and not the reality that they are. And you see that on, I don't think it's just gaming. I think that's social media, like, oh, everything's perfect. Like Facebook, you only get to post what you want to post.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, and there's some reality to that too, even like what what anybody post online. Like you only see a snapshot. Like we could have just like fist fought, or this could be like literally all I could think about is how this looks like poop. I could be drinking a poop smoothie and everything could be looking fine.
You know what I just thought of?
What's that?
The irony in what you're saying
Mhm.
is so many people are like, "Oh, just be you, like be you on online and all this other stuff." But the second that you post something real, you're
Mhm.
drama.
Mm,
What are
I
you
think
doing over
people
there?
like drama. Don't ask. I
I'm
can cut that
asking.
out. Putting my smoothie in here. I think people like drama though.
Yeah.
Like the I I don't even know. I was doing something at work. It did not require any effort. I found some girl. She was like, "I'm going to tell you about how my husband has had a girlfriend the entire time we were married as we were youth pastors at our church."
Oh, dang.
I was like, I'll just watch this listen to
Oh,
this. And
goodness.
I don't even care about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It took her 8 freaking videos. And while it was interesting, like people were tuning in to know what that drama was, to know what that life was. None of it could be true.
Yeah.
And it is all drama. but people like drama.
And I think that's why people like true crime. But we're meandering off subject, so let's
Anyway,
continue.
so when you take the game away, you're thrusting, like, let's say you were to come and take the game away from the kids, you're taking them out of reality and the one place that they feel confident,
Mhm.
which I think a lot, I know this was satire, but the remote control kid.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I can see why a kid who hated their life or didn't feel comfortable in their own life or who didn't have something to call their own in reality, and you're like, "Oh, you lost your game for a week."
yeah.
That could be devastating to their lives because their lives are they don't have freedom. They don't have the ability to go do be they're not
Especially in this
adults.
modern age where it's like back whenever my mom was a kid. Oh, come back in whenever the lights are on outside. You
Mhm.
can't do that hardly anymore.
Right.
By the way, I just wanted to add this in here real quick. How this book works is it gears up to helping your kid out of the addiction. Right now, we're just kind of getting to the whys and how you can relate and how to build an alliance with your child. So, what was a statement or a question again?
When you take the game away, you're thrusting them back into reality and out of the one place they feel
Yeah,
confident,
and that goes back to the community and what you were talking about as far as like being whoever you want to be, and like you have
or your
taken.
actual real friends.
Yeah, and you're taking them away from their almost pseudo anonymous uh confident place and putting them into a very weird, very abnormal place for them where maybe they have an older brother that always is picking on them, or maybe they have um you know
Hypothetically.
friends that friends at school that don't have similar interests like they do and things like that. So yeah, you're taking them away from what they're comfortable with if you just snatch them out of this.
Right. So, as far as like core needs, when you think about like what we as humans want, like we need obviously food, water, air, sleep, and then there are psychological needs where we need to be challenged. We need to have an identity. We need community. We need to have achievements. And a lot of those, like, some things may be harder for people to achieve in real life,
Hmm.
but being able to it's like that dopamine hit. So I think about especially all I can do is relate to myself, but with Overwatch where they had, oh my god, they had the cutest little cute stickers,
Hmm.
but you had to do something like really substantial to earn those.
Hmm.
And so when I got those, not only were they cute, but it was like, oh, yes, that dopamine feels so good.
Yep.
And so the challenge, maybe they're not challenged in real life, like maybe they don't come home and they're like, all right, we're going to go work out, we're going to play games as a family, you're going to try something new. Maybe the parents are just trying to get through, or maybe they don't really care. Like there's a sense of human nature and satisfactory and being able to say, oh, I achieved something.
Yeah. And we'll get more into it in a second. I think it's like the next couple bullet points where it's like talking about how video game designers have created this very specific dopamine.
You might as well
um
get into that because you're there now.
okay, what was the
I'll come back to that. Go
okay.
ahead and say.
But they've created this very specific dopamine cycle, which is you achieve something or you reach a challenge.
Mhm.
They make the challenge just difficult enough where you may die in the game a couple times, or um you'll have to figure out a
It's all
puzzle or something
dopamine.
like that.
Yeah.
And then but it's easy enough to where you can figure it out. It just might be a little bit of a challenge, which is what we need, especially that's why you see predominantly men that play video games. We need to fix. That's like in our core pretty much. And so as soon as you solve that problem, you get that dopamine rush, and then they put another one right in your path. So,
And then I think we also have a respect for other people who have achieved hard things like, oh dude, you've beat XYZ boss, or
mhm.
like, yeah, think about the mounts that you would get in World of
Oh yeah.
Warcraft, like from doing certain things. And some of it may be mindless tasks, but it's not like, if you think back to before we had technology, like, okay, you said men need to fix. Well, if men are hyper focused or focused on fixing things in the virtual world, but aren't fixing their own homes, their own,
Mhm.
like, we have 800 house tasks, but you're in there, passing the next level.
Yep.
And the kids really don't have that same responsibility. And so for them, it's like, okay, well, I'm not doing well at school because I'm overwhelmed, X, Y, whatever it is, or I'm being bullied. So at least here I can feel like I'm achieving
Yep.
something.
Or
And
like they they have a messy room, but they have an immaculate house in Minecraft.
right. I could think of one particular kid, but it's easy to click blocks and say, oh, this is going to go here, this is going to go there. They have 100% control.
Hmm.
Where here, they can't decide what they want their room to look like. They can't change it up when they're feeling away.
Yep.
Um, and then I think, you know, I'm just going off your bullet points, but video games have become a coping mechanism because it's trained kids to a certain level of success. There's no like, okay, I'm going to go in real life, I'm going to try to um, be an artist, right? I'm going to do an art piece. And if I fail, it looks like crap. Or if I fail, it's not what I want and I have to start over. Where there's really no like, you either pass or fail
Hmm.
in this game. You can keep trying over and over and over again. And if you don't like that, you can move on.
Yep.
Where in real life, like you have to visually look at the things that you are doing. And like, let's say you go to a job and you fail at a job, you get a little job and you don't come to work, or you accidentally let a dog out onto Highway 17 and they go running around. Like there's no real ramifications
Yep.
in the virtual world. And um, it's kind of like, okay, well, let's say take you out in the real world. You're used to gaming, and all right, now you're going to go do this, and maybe you fail a driving test. Well, I'm going to go back to virtual driving because that's easy enough.
Hmm.
There's no ramifications for that. They're not going to take my license
Yep.
because I don't have one.
And the other part to that is that you're not trained anymore, or they're not adapted to deal with failure. That's the main thing is, not only do
Because it's
they,
healthy to deal with failure.
yeah,
That's where you grow.
not only do they not have failure, because all the levels, everything, and even if you're playing the hardest game, something like Dark Souls or Elden Rings or something like that, the
Mhm.
game is meant to be beat. Like that is
Right.
100% the thing, and no matter what, you can beat the challenge. It just takes a little bit of persistency. But even every time you die, there's no real ramifications. There's certain games that it's like permadeath kind of thing, but you can start the game back up.
Right.
But the examples that they kept on giving in the book is what happens whenever you're, 11th, 12th grade and you're failing and there's no turning back. Like you are going to fail high school. You're not going to graduate. Well, they have no tools to adapt to that. So what do? They turn back to video games.
Right. I mean, and really video games, like you can solo games. You don't really, like, to your point, you don't really need friends. It doesn't matter what the weather looks like. It doesn't matter what's going on. Like you can binge a video game or you
Mhm.
could play as you want to. Like you are in complete control short of the challenges that it makes. And um like sometimes you take a risk in life and there may not be a reward, where in most of the time the video games, like, okay, maybe I'm risking doing permadeath,
Mhm.
but if I pass, the reward is XYZ, but I can always start over. You can't, if let's say you were trying something challenging in life and you really shouldn't have been doing that, and the risk could have been great, but the reward could have been great, but the risk is death. Well, you can't undo that in life,
Yep. Unless you're in the Matrix or something.
Right. And really, now there, I think this is excuse me, a dual-sided thing, because you think about, in life, if you become the greatest at something, then, you'll be recognized for, oh, look at their achievements.
Hmm.
And most people who go through that stuff are like picked apart, right?
Hmm.
Where online you can pick who you can pick your identity. You can decide who you are. You can live through that game, like your gaming character, depending on what game you play. And like, oh, what if you're the top like gamer, especially with esports being a thing? But it, you might also not be the best and get bullied. And like, there have been kids who've killed themselves
Yeah.
over people bullying them on video games because, imagine the rejection where you're on the video game because your real life sucks. And then you get on this, or you're on the video game because your real life sucks. And then on the video game, people are bullying you.
Yeah.
Like,
and
and you don't know how to turn it off because you're addicted to it.
yeah, and just amplify that by so many people, so many kids who want to stream and be the next big streamer, and they suck at the game. They don't have much of a personality, and instead of people encouraging them, saying, "Hey, this is how you become a streamer," they bully them or make them feel lesser than.
Or in a game, if like that's their escape, like, and that's what they want to do. Especially I think about VR, like you go in and somebody like gets in a room and like makes you feel like crap. I think it goes back to the addictive part of it where I could just hit that power button
Mhm.
and all of this would be over. But what am I going back to? A, and then B, um, you know, what if kids' minds are like mushy. This
Mhm.
isn't very mushy, but kids' minds are mushy and they still don't understand like all of this, you can just turn it off.
Mhm.
But I think especially if they have things going on at home already, that can be their escape, that can be their community. And then, if you take away that community, they need to have a place to go outside of that. And if the family's not it, and they're not connected to a club, they're not going to work, not like up in the club, but
Mhm.
some place to be a part of something greater because we are a communal species.
Yeah.
Some of us are more solo, or more one on one, but everybody needs a place to belong.
Mhm.
You know,
Yep.
so, take away their game, and really our job as parents is to help them find a in real life community. Like, I'm super proud of Aaron for wanting to go to the gym, not only with us, but with his friends.
Mhm.
And they're not even really his like super great friends, but they have a similar interest where he can grow with them.
Yep.
Where I think for the younger of our family, one of them has similar interest to one person, but the rest, our youngest particularly, you know I'm glad that she doesn't game, because if we took that from her, I don't know that she'd have that community to
Yeah.
connect in.
Yeah, I think that's a bad thing about our town. It's still in its growing pains. And so she's really into anime, so there's not like a active anime club or, anything like that in our town. So it's like that's kind of hard for us to facilitate for her. There's other things like, she enjoys Pokemon and stuff like that, but that's our job as a parent, is to find and facilitate that for them.
Well, if we're going to be realistic as far as parenting goes, like there is a specific store that does anime stuff and does that kind of community.
Mm.
But
Anime or Pokemon? Because you said that they did.
no, I mentioned they did all of it. Like they
That's
did a
cool.
Pokemon tournament, they did D&D, they did anime. I mean, they sell manga there. They talk about everything. But it's being able to like keep up with everybody and
Mhm.
keep up with regular everyday life. And again, if you're going to have kids, you have to know that all of this comes with it.
Yeah.
And your actions in your life directly impacts those kids.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, when it comes to being isolated online, um, if you just think about like, okay, if I have to face see you, I have a standard that I have to live up to. I want to look nice. I want to, I
Put on deodorant.
put put on deodorant, brush my hair.
Not pee in a bottle.
Okay.
There's a lot of memes about WoW players who play so much and they don't want to stand
Oh,
up and pee.
Cartman, where his mom like,
No, I'm talking about real people
no,
who do that.
I get that. No, obviously satire comes from a place of reality, but um, when you are online, there's like this anonymity,
Yeah.
where there's really no morality because in games, like certain games, you're meant to. I think about GTA. Sorry, I can't help myself. GTA, where like you're meant to go around and kill hizzies.
That's that's the funniest thing for me is like I've never played GTA, but I'm playing Cyberpunk, which is like it's like a futuristic version of that. And so many people just go around plowing down people, cops, all this other stuff. And I'm just like, all right, unless you're a bad guy, I'm not taking you out. So it's like even in video games, certain times, not all the time, but certain times I have like this morality. Just an example.
You like playing the good guy instead of the bad guy.
I like play the bad guy sometimes, but in general
The
games
bad
where I'm
guy.
supposed to be the good guy, I don't. Um, but I remember whenever Halo came out, Halo 3 came out,
Mhm.
I was really into church at the time. And literally, I had this moral battle within myself in killing the grunts.
It's interesting because it means you were connected to a community who
What?
had a standard.
What in the
Like,
world are you talking about?
where you're talking about real life versus not real life. Like,
No, I wasn't in church per se. It was more or less I was reading the Bible and everything.
well, how was that to know that when you said you were in church?
I was in church, but it was more like the other kids my age weren't taking it as seriously as me. So I was like
Well, that makes it
I
much
was
different.
playing Halo 3, reading Bibles, and pretty much like thou shalt not kill. And I'm just like, what
Oh,
about this virtual alien? I have to take him out.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Um, I think that especially if the kids are growing up in the games, whether they have church or whether they have a moral compass that has been instilled in parents, well, you put them in front of a game that is the antithesis of that. And it's like, what do you do? And then even to that, like, we try to instill in our kids, don't talk to strangers, don't,
Hmm.
show your boobies, don't get engaged in inappropriate things, don't. God, I remember when I was a teen, it was all ASL, age, sex, location.
Mm.
And like back then, I was like, oh, I'm, 16, Florida, and a female. And that's just what you asked. Where now, like people can pinpoint where you're at.
Yeah. That's a
And
dangerous thing. So dangerous. Freaking was it Snapchat? That I feel just a PSA for everybody. All apps that use your location can be dangerous. Snapchat is by far, in my opinion, the most dangerous. And then just the kids randomly giving out their location via Apple, whatever location
oh,
services or
fine.
whatever.
What is it? I think that's so normal now. We're like, uh, my best friend lives in Kentucky, and I know exactly where she's at all
But
the
that
time. I know that's
as an adult,
different, but
that's
I'm
fine.
saying,
But as children or teens or even early adulthood, that is so unbelievably dangerous. You're dating like say it's a young girl and a guy, and the girl's dating a unstable guy, and they haven't really come over to the house enough to know how to get there. Well, he has your exact location at all times. He doesn't even have to go to your house to hurt you. He can go, find you at Walmart and
have
get
you
you at
ever
the back of
thought
the
to have?
parking lot.
And I think we're having this conversation because I never thought to have that conversation with my kids
Yeah.
because it wasn't really
Well, that's the whole thing about this book too. Is like we. This will be brought up in chapter 3, but we as parents,
the foretelling,
yeah. What is it called? Like alluding to,
foreshadowing.
yeah, foreshadowing. But in the next chapter, they talk about how, um, shoot, I lost my train of thought.
We're just talking about um how the kids are impacted and being able to keep them safe and telling their where they're at and being able to share those locations.
Nope, nope, it's gone.
But okay, well, I'm going to finish that and move on to the next part of it. Like, you have to, everything has accelerated so quickly. I would have never thought to
Oh,
go.
sorry, that's what it was. Is our parents, which we got our parenting instilled in us from them. Are you burping still? Is that? Um, but their parenting style was imprinted on us, and that parenting style just doesn't work in this modern age.
No, but how, and let's say you're in my sweet spot, right? Where I think you are more connected to the gaming community than I was.
Yeah,
Where like I grew up with an Atari, if I had an Atari,
yeah.
like I didn't have a cell phone that wasn't Snake. like gaming until I had that my first cell phone that was not like you had to tap the numbers to text was when I was 19, 18, 19, where you grew up in a much more technology laden. I didn't have my first experience with online gaming and still didn't like I definitely like had met somebody from the internet in real life and told no one
Mm.
because I didn't know.
Yep.
You know, and this was in my mature age. So I think, you know, the kids have no idea. Like, even if they said, what, you know, what's your age, sex, location, if like they were trying to be safe, like there's voice modifications and there's people who know how to change their things. And if anything, let's say none of that evil stuff is going on, like,
Mm.
you know, terrible life detrimental things, like they're going to be exposed to things like I get it, public school can tell you things, but what if they learn stories like, or terms that they never saw before and are exposed to things that they've never seen before because they're on this game?
Yep.
And it's not to say that I think the main part, it sounds really scary, like, oh my God, go rip out all the systems, you know, but it's about, you know, education, like limiting putting blocks on the things that you can, you know, really depending on the age and the education of your child and your education. Like,
Mhm.
don't let them get on live, like voice chats. Don't let them be able to message. And that's going to take you having to Google, like,
Yep.
how do I disable this or that?
Like,
You know,
in the notes, it talks about going into on say an Xbox or I'm not sure about how to do it on a PS5, but on an Xbox or a Switch, you go into the settings and you can turn off voice chat.
that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Yep. Or you can go into each individual game and do that too. So you can have that double kind of safety there.
And you could put it on like just them playing on speakers instead of
Yep.
on their headphones. And then, you know, if anything, especially if you feel like you don't have that education, um, like put the gaming in the middle of the house,
Yep.
you know, where that way, even if you don't know, and maybe you're in the middle of doing something and you can't babysit them or whatever that is, or like sometimes I'll come in and I don't think Aaron's doing anything wrong, but he like pauses the game. And he's like, "Hey mom, what's up?" He's just pausing the game.
Yep.
But for some kids, it could be like, I don't want to, I don't want you to know what's going on.
Yep. I mean, I've been listening to what is it called? We're All Crazy. That's a good podcast, but
Link below.
yep. And there's been a few she normally interviews you know, other women, but she was talking about one of the ladies that she was interviewing was talking about how during AIM, you know, the AOL thing,
Mm-hmm.
she was doing all kind of scandalous things at 10, 11, 12, and
Especially when you need attention.
yeah, and she would the computer was in the middle of the house, all this different stuff, but she would just like escape out of there or go to another window.
Windows D.
Yep.
Um,
Don't give anybody any hints now.
I mean, that's old school. Everybody has Mac.
Just kidding.
And there, where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, and that's a good point. Like you can instill all these things in your kids and you could hold them accountable and you could do everything that you can do, but we're in a day and age where it's got to come to a point where you've educated, you've protected, you've supervised, you've done all the things that you can do, and they're going to have to own their actions. That doesn't mean that you're like, oh well, I said it one time, whatever. But I feel like, especially, I'm not saying that boys aren't susceptible, but especially for young ladies,
Yeah.
you know, we got to be careful. And in worst case scenario, like I'd much rather see a parent not have any gaming console than to have a gaming console and put their kid at risk.
Yeah.
They're going to get exposed to things, you know, that maybe they don't even have a cell phone. I don't, however you want to live your life. I think there's a part of belonging to your community and connecting. And that is the way of the future. When they turn 18, they're going to get a cell phone. They're going to
Yeah.
get, I mean, you look at the Amish community where they have an opportunity at 18 to go live in the real world and like experience whatever they want to. I can't remember what the term is. And a lot of them go and never come back and they are just wilding out. And so I think if you overly protect them from that experience, it could be harmful or it could, you know, it could be, it doesn't teach
Your
them
mic
anything.
fell.
sorry, it doesn't teach them anything to take it away. You have to educate them because when they're out on their own, they gonna do what they gonna do.
Yeah. But it is hard because, whenever you do establish safety things like on our kids' phones, they have a lot of safety parameters.
Mhm,
There's certain apps that they're not going to download.
mhm.
I'm not going to allow them to download Snapchat or anything like other apps like that.
Where you can erase things.
Yeah, I mean it's so easy. But
But more and more apps are coming out where they're like, "Yes, yes, do this.
yeah,
Erase things."
but I'm saying like it's such a social norm to have those things now, which is ridiculous to me. Like,
People
why?
post their Snapchat
Why is that normal?
or their Instagram on the back of their car.
Well,
Like, here's my handle. Also, here's my license plate. But
and here's my location.
right,
It's so crazy. Like, why is it people, so many people online are afraid of being doxxed, but then they
which means
turn
what?
around where, all your information's leaked, like your phone number, your address is a main one. And, that's where you get the term swatting from, which is where you're doxxed and then they send a SWAT team to your house, claiming that you hurt somebody or did something. So it's just so ironic to me that friggin' people are afraid of being doxxed, but at the same time, they just here's everything. Here's my
I
exact
think
location at all times.
everything moves so quickly. It's really hard for people to wrap their mind around it, and
Yep.
especially the youth, where it's so over inundating with what the social norm is and the environment they're in, especially in public school. I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter what school you're in, but especially in public school or maybe private school, keeps that a little bit more held back. And then if you grow up with a parent gamer, like you're way more exposed. Like I feel like I I would say that if it comes to degrees, the old like my generation, the age gap obviously here,
Yeah,
like
hey, we're not too different. I meant to bring that back up
uh,
later. I was essentially raised, you know, technologically speaking, Amish because, again, yeah, I had gaming consoles, but I didn't have internet in the house until much later.
right,
Pretty much like I got internet in the house whenever the Xbox 360 came out and really didn't have a laptop or anything like that until I was in high school.
right. So I didn't have any of that growing up, and I didn't have the just the consoles in general. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that we're too far different, but that makes a huge difference. Like
Mhm.
where you were still in your communal stage, not in full-fledged like adulting,
Mhm.
and you had access to that. Where like for me, I feel like I'm less educated because I didn't have access to that at all. And I didn't understand like the internet gaming thing. None of that made sense to me. And I I wasn't exposed. I mean, I did it. I knew what AOL chat was and MySpace and all that stuff.
Yep.
But my kids weren't exposed to gaming except for very little like Uncharted or things like that growing up. Where for you, you kind of grew up in it and that was your hobby. So for Juliet, whether it was online gaming or not, whether it was, social gaming or not, whether it was, connected to the internet or not, gaming was more of a norm for her because she saw it more in her lifetime.
Yeah.
Where like Dayla could not play a video game to save her life.
Yeah.
If you can, I'm sorry. And
She
I
plays the heck out of
Oh,
Sims.
so yeah, some Sims. Yeah, and that I don't even know if you can get online with that. I'm sure you can
Mm,
now, but
I don't know.
Yeah, everybody plays Sims. That's and that can be unhealthy
Gateway
too.
one.
Yeah, exactly. I've lived that. I can say it now. Shit out of Sims. Um, but that's another escape, even if you take away the social aspect of that. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm excited to see what we get into with chapter 3 because we're talking a lot about the dangers and the exposure. But then, there's also a reality to what the kids are exposed to. And, how do you go back? How do you set parameters? This would be really good if you have a child that has not got a preteen even earlier on. But at this point, who knows? Kids are playing
They
games.
play on the iPad.
There are
and stuff.
8-year-olds who are
Yeah.
murking, doing really well, killing people. Or
Sorry, I've already said it.
oh, you can bleep it out. Who are offing people in games way better than adults. So
Yeah. Aaron's
anyway.
playing with his toy in there. All right, I think that was about it as far as chapter 2 goes. That one, like Lara just said, it gets me thinking about the dangers of internet stuff.
We could put our notes up there, by the way.
Yeah.
That'd be great. So
I agree. So yeah, again, this is How to Raise a Healthy Gamer.
below for the book.
Yep.
Come back and
I think it's a really good book. Just in general. So check it out if you want to follow along with us. And until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and all the other good stuff.
the bell.
And we will see you on the next one.
Stay a little odd,
Yeah, stay a
as
little.
we are.
Yeah, that's what it is. I forgot about that. It's been so long.
I remembered both.
Wow. Good job, Blair. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.